Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the Bitcoin price is experiencing that short-term bounce from this exact level of support, which is bringing the Bitcoin daily RSI up to this importance level of resistance. On top of that, we are seeing the percentage of Bitcoin short positions at the highest level on record on some exchanges. And I also have some other important Bitcoin charts just like this one to take a look at later in this video. So definitely make sure you're watching all the way to the end so that you don't miss out on any of this important information. And just before we jump into it, you might as well leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on for more updates just like this every single day. But with all of that out of the way, let's get straight into what this video is about. So right here, we're on the Bitcoin US dollar chart on the daily time frame, and we've got our Fibonacci levels on the logarithmic settings. And right now, we've got the 78.6% Fibonacci level coming in at around $35,000 approximately. And obviously, for anyone that has been watching a lot of my recent Bitcoin update videos, this 35K level is the level that I've been targeting as some major short-term support for Bitcoin after we broke below that September low. And so as I have been saying over the past few days, the fact that we are holding above 35K is good in the shorter term for Bitcoin, but we still haven't necessarily confirmed a new upturns just yet, so keep that in mind. And also looking in the daily RSI for Bitcoin, this is still in a downtrend. We are still below this descending line of resistance, but right now we are just about retesting it again. This line of resistance is coming into play at around 37 on the daily RSI. And in order for us to see the daily RSI break above that level, we need to see at least one daily candle close above that level of resistance, which at the time of filming this video, we haven't seen just yet. So keep that in mind, but this is something to pay attention to. And just zooming out to the 3-day time frame for Bitcoin to reiterate the importance of the RSI, because obviously this is not Bitcoin's first downturn. We have seen this happen time and time again, especially in the 3-day RSI. But in these previous time periods back here, the moment the Bitcoin price started to flip more bullish again moving forward, that was when the 3-day Bitcoin RSI started breaking above this descending line of resistance both of these times here. And so if you're looking at what's happening right now, technically we are still below this descending line of resistance. And on this chart, to confirm a break above, we need to see a 3-day candle close, which will cement the RSI in place. So this is an important signal on the chart that I am personally paying attention to moving forward, because after we see a break above that line once again, that is a good signal to us that we are at least flipping somewhat bullish here in the shorter term, and possibly leading into a reversal like what we saw after July last year, or looking back at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. At the very least, we saw a relief rally back to the upside. But once again, I want to make this extra clear. We have currently not seen that play out, at least just yet, but we are potentially getting closer to that. Also, just a quick reminder about the Bitcoin weekly time frame. Ideally, we need to see some more volume coming in here to confirm a possible bottom, which right now we haven't actually seen, which that basically means that right now we can't be too confident that we've actually hit the bottom, at least just yet, especially because we have not seen a liquidation event just yet. And normally after a pullback like this, we see some sort of liquidation event, whether it's a long squeeze or a short squeeze. Usually some sort of major liquidation event happens at the end of a trend like this, and that results in a very volatile move and also a lot of volume coming into play. And that is what we've seen time and time again throughout many years worth of Bitcoin price history. And speaking about Bitcoin leverage, right now checking out the Bitcoin estimated leverage ratio, it hasn't really moved that much over the past 1 week or so, which means that the Bitcoin estimated leverage ratio is still at relatively high values in comparison to all of these major peaks in the past, as you can see here. And while talking about a lot of this leverage that we are waiting to squeeze out of the market, we are seeing record amounts of short positions currently open even to this day relative to long positions here on the Bybit exchange. And so obviously Bybit as an exchange is one of the most well-known exchanges out there for leverage trading. And so obviously if we're seeing something like this happening, that is a big deal. And by the way, for the complete beginners out there, what this red line is just here, that is the percentage of Bitcoin short positions on the Bybit exchange. And right now it is just broken above 50% for the first time in history, and it is approaching 51%, which means out of all of the Bitcoin positions right now on the Bybit exchange, more than half of them, so nearly 51% of them now, are Bitcoin short positions. As then obviously the remaining percentage is built up in Bitcoin long positions, and those Bitcoin long positions can be represented by this green line right here. So as you can see, the Bitcoin long positions have been obviously going to the downside while the Bitcoin price is going to the downside. And at the same time, we're seeing more and more Bitcoin short positions getting opened up. And yes, according to this data right here, over the last 1 to 2 days, for the first time in history, we have seen more short positions on the Bybit exchange than Bitcoin long positions. We did didn't even see anywhere near this back in the May, June, and July correction. So that just goes to show how bearish everyone is on the markets at the moment, because right now, the majority, technically speaking, are betting on much lower prices, at least on the Bybit exchange. This can also be backed up by the Bitcoin funding rates across all of these exchanges, and right now, pretty much all of the funding rates are negative. And anytime we see all of the Bitcoin funding rates negative, that means that the majority of the traders out there are trying to short Bitcoin, because if the Bitcoin funding rates are negative, and if you're in a short position, that means you have to pay an extra fee, usually every 8 hours, to the Bitcoin long positions just to keep that short position open. So as more and more people try to open new Bitcoin short positions, these Bitcoin funding rates get further and further into negative territory, making those Bitcoin short positions more expensive to hold. And all of this bearish sentiment at the moment in the market can also be backed up by the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, which has been sitting in fear or extreme fear for quite a while now, over the last couple months or so. And this Bitcoin chart right here is the Bitcoin to US dollar chart on the daily time frame, but at the bottom of the screen, this shows us what the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index was doing throughout all of this previous price history. And what the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index tells us is some of the best sell opportunities and some of the best buy opportunities. But one important thing to keep in mind with this indicator is the best sell opportunities come after we see a lot of extreme greed in the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, not necessarily the moment we start seeing extreme greed. Because in this example that I'm looking at right here, that was at the end of 2020 leading into the beginning of 2021. And if you sold the moment this index hit extreme greed, that was right there at the end of 2020, you would have sold at around 20,000 US dollars per Bitcoin, or even lower than that. And so obviously if you sold then, you would have missed out on a massive run to the upside from 20,000 to over 60,000 US dollars. So really the best sell opportunity came after we saw a decent chunk of extreme greed in this Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. And regarding a possible buy signal, the same sort of thing happened back in the middle of last year. As you can see, the moment we hit extreme fear in this Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, that was in around the middle of May. And if you're looking at the corresponding price action, we were still on the way to the downside. So yes, if you're holding for the next 5 months, that still turned out to be a pretty good buying opportunity. But over the next 2 months, we still head a little bit further to the downside after we saw a lot of fear in the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, which means technically speaking, the best Bitcoin buying opportunity came after we saw around 1 to 2 months worth of extreme fear in the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, just like how I explained the best sell opportunity came after 1 to 2 months worth of extreme greed in this index. Now, it's important to mention that that is not necessarily the case at all times. For example, with the March 2020 crash, we immediately dropped into extreme fear the moment we saw that 50% dump in a single day. And then from that dump, we basically saw an immediate recovery to the upside, and we didn't really go any further than that to the downside. So as with most rules out there, there's usually some exceptions to the rules, so keep that in mind. But if you're looking at what we've been seeing recently in the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index, we have been seeing extreme fear for around 2 months now. And once again, just looking at what we saw in the middle of last year, we saw extreme fear for around just over 2 months. And then looking at that March 2020 crash, we still stayed in extreme fear for around 1.5 to 2 months. So usually we get to around a 2-month long period before we finally start seeing a bit of a recovery, or at least a relief rally back out of extreme fear. So obviously nothing is guaranteed in the markets. I want to make that clear. So all I'm saying here is that we have actually spent our fair share of time in extreme fear, which, believe it or not, is actually pretty standard for Bitcoin, as we have experienced time and time again in Bitcoin's past. But obviously right now we have a massive external factor outside of the crypto markets that we did not really have back in the middle of 2021, and that is the correction that we are seeing in the stock market right now. So this is the Nasdaq 100 index on the daily time frame, and over the past 2 months, the same time period that Bitcoin has been bearish, we've also seen the stock markets play out a lot of bearish price action. So yes, this is one of the biggest catalysts out there that is pushing Bitcoin into this bearish trends that we've been in over the past couple months. But if you're looking at yesterday's daily candle in the Nasdaq 100 index, yes, we still closed yesterday's daily candle as a red candle, but it wasn't as bad as some of the other daily candles that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. But today is a very important day for all financial markets, because today we are due to receive news from the Federal Reserve regarding their plans for monetary policy this year. And what we know so far is that the Federal Reserve is going to be ending their taper and potentially raising interest rates as early as March this year. So in the news from the Federal Reserve today, if they announce that they're going to be raising rates sooner than March, then it's very likely we'll play out more bearish price action in just about all markets. So I'm talking about the stock market and crypto in particular. But if we are somehow lucky enough that because of this downturn in the markets recently, they are pushing pushing back those interest rate hikes into later this year, then in that scenario, we could enter a recovery in the stock markets and in the crypto markets. And as always, if you want to get extra updates throughout the day in the financial markets and also receive some of the information that I include in these videos, but earlier in the day, then definitely make sure you follow me over on my Twitter, and the link to my Twitter is in the description down below and also in the pinned comments. If you got anything of value out of this video, please make sure to leave a like down below. And if you're new to the channel, you might as well subscribe with notifications turned on so that you're not missing out on any of these important updates that I post every single day. And as always, I appreciate every single one of you here on the channel. I can't thank you enough. And also for anyone new to the channel, you might as well check out one of these uploads if you haven't already. But that is it for this update. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.